Hey everybody, it's your pal Drew Tracy for another whip-snap and exciting episodes that focus on comics I truly dig. So, I've been an inker for 30 years or so. 30 years, geez. And also written 3 novels that are available on Amazon called The Demands, based on a fictional indie rock band in Pittsburgh that plays clubs and bars owned by the Russian mob. So just look for the ticket. Look for the golden ticket. Well, I'm using a metaphor for Charlie. What is it? Willy Wonka and the Amazing Chocolate Factory. But this isn't why you came. You want to hear about this very rare John Byrne work. He only did 2 issues of Indiana Jones, and he left, but not for reasons you would think. Everyone says, "Oh, he's temperamental," blah 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 blah. That's not really true. If you looked into his history, you'll see that he had reasons in some cases to leave the books that were, I found, legitimate. And I'm not even just covering for him. I met the guy once, and I found him to be a total asshole. But even though we were having dinner with him, and but that never, I was still a fan, since 1975, and so. The Raiders of the Lost Ark official comic book adaptation was a 3-issue series written by Walt Simonson, penciled by John Buscema, inked by Klaus Janson, and it was gorgeous. So, about less than a year later, this came along. I didn't know this. Back then, I wasn't near a comic shop. I'd have to go all the way downtown to go to the comic shop, and I only recently got my driver's license around this time. Anyway, I saw this on the rack. And I didn't even know it was going to exist. I didn't know it existed because we didn't have those big phone book preview books that you could rifle through and find all these other books. Marvel had either in the Comics Journal every month, which I didn't buy that many. I'd buy them on the subject matter of the interviews, or literally an 8.5 by 11 flyer, a pamphlet that had Marvel stuff printed on both sides. And, I took it home sometimes, but, 3 months away and you're not seeing any artwork. And I kind of forgot that this was coming out. And another thing about that's interesting is this is about more than a year into John Byrne's Fantastic Four. He was warming up to do his own Alpha Flight series, a double-sized issue, which was he penciled, inked, and wrote, plotted everything. So anyway... this is a reunion with Terry Austin, just like Klaus Janson, just a totally identifiable, wonderful inks, and I thumbed, first I said, "Oh, that looks like Byrne." I just thumbed through it, and sure enough, it was John Byrne, 2/3 of the team that brought us the greatest X-Men comics ever. I'll go to my grave saying that. Dark Phoenix Saga and Days of Future Past. 40 years ago, still the best one, because there's been a lot of neat stories since, but not as great stories. And there's been a lot of shitty stories, too. Sometimes you can't capture... I was going to say you can't capture lightning in the bottle twice, but you can't put the toothbrush back in the tube. That doesn't make sense either. I'm just excited about this. If you're a long-time Byrne completist like I am, you got to get these 2 issues. Really good stuff. I'm going to start right here. Terry Austin gets to do solo work on the cover. And I totally love that script and layout by John Byrne, finished art by Terry Austin. I don't recall if I've ever had the chance to do finished art. I've mostly been a very, very, very good tracer. And people say, "Oh, you have such great clean inks." But I'm like, yeah, but it's more like I'm more like a machine rather than letting myself express myself. And maybe people didn't like me enough to see what I would express. That made no sense. I'm just going on. So great splash. Really grabs your attention. Snap. I just love that. That's great. And he's establishing, the university where Indy works, just keeping with the original movie, and he meets an old friend of his, student, and but he gets knifed in the back. So with page 3, you have a lot going on already. It's not drawn out, and you didn't go out and buy bubblegum at the time. I love bubblegum. I can't chew gum anymore because I got too many crowns in my and fillings in my teeth. So I thought you'd want to know that. He finds a map and all this in this guy's handbag, and he has to go to Liberia. He's like, I'm going to take leave of absence. Yeah, I'm trying to make a playing effect. Chapter 2. I love that he did Chapter 2 because he had done the Black Panther episode of Fantastic Four. They did all 3 chores on, and he broke it up into chapters. Just like the old days of Fantastic Four, the old days of the Incredible Hulk, and I just love it. It's just a charming thing. So here comes the gal who is the sister of the man who was murdered, and they're both looking for these golden icons. It's IKON. Yeah, there we go. The icons are an enormous archaeological importance. Blah 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 blah. I can't say that. So that ceiling fan, that's just incredible. I love that view, and it's really clever. And they get bushwhacked, and but Edith gets tossed out, and he's worried about her. But she's on the the other thugs are taking her away. He throws his whip right into like a vegetable sandwich, and that's just a great. I could see that in the movie. That's what was great about it. And clearly Byrne had an idea how to continue. Well, he ends up in his booby trap. He's what's going on? Bastistas. And he shoots the lock, and he confronts a guy named Solomon King. No, Solomon Black is his name. That's right. Solomon King, I think, was in Black Panther books. Anyway, Chapter 3 is all this gold, and he's wanting to find out about those golden icons, and holding her as a hostage. And he basically lays it out that he what anybody younger than 30, you're free to like squeal and laugh as hard as you can at the stupid commercial of the stupid ad. That's what we had in 1982. These game cartridges were perfect for like asteroids and star. What do you call that? Space invasion, stuff like that. Space invaders. But when they tried to do 3-dimensional stuff, it was dreadfully bad. And even for the time, I was like, wow, that's awful. So, he basically justifies his existence by saying that only he knows how to translate the findings and other findings that they'll need him to come upon later. So, that's great. Toss the bag. It's booby trapped with arrows. Dig around. Just look at all that. That foliage and the rocks. It's got such a. It's weird because Terry Austin, he can combine like cold graphics to organic lines, which usually is freehand, and he does freehand in his own way. This also reminds me of the Black Panther issue because there was a lot of cool architecture, and so they find these golden icons with a K. See a little, got you a little glob of gold there. Pulls one out. Bones. They're not statues. Well, they're about to be dipped in gold. They move this aside. That's not a miscolor. The cauldron gets opened, and they're about to bragging that Warren Comics beat Marvel Comics beat Warren. Woohoo! So they're dropping in there, and soon enough their net worth is going to skyrocket, provided they want to lose some limbs later on. But okay, on to the next issue. Okay, everybody, up, let's get it going. Come on, we've done this dance already. Issue 2. Come on, man. There. See, I use my magic to do that. Beautiful cover. This time, it's definitely a Byrne in Austin cover, just from the perspective and the. Now, this is terrible printing. I got to zoom in a little bit, and I'm not a paper snob, but this was just awful. Okay, we've established that Byrne penciled and laid out the first issue, and Terry Austin inked it. This time, it is Missouri O'Neill, otherwise known as Denny O'Neill, who is scripting it. And you're probably saying, how is this? Well, before the age of faxes and, being able to FedEx everything, doing licensed, franchises was tough. You couldn't get an answer back at the end of the day, or even weeks later. You would have to end up waiting for approval from the owners of the franchise. And it was usually a lot of back and forth. Some scenes they would even change. I don't know about this book, but they would say, oh, well, Indy wouldn't do that. Or, oh, well, we think this would be blah, blah. Oh, this might interfere with our future plans for the sequel. So just stuff like that. Not necessarily, goofing off. It's just being protective of a successful franchise that they plan to continue. So it's kicking back and forth. Nice easy panels there. You just do that and make photo stats of the others. And they got free. So, which was very clever. I loved how Byrne did that. He just made it very natural. Well, Solomon Black and his last panel. Guy gets jabbed by a poison needle or something that knocks him out. Now this page here, this panel, it's awful. It's okay. It's good anatomically and the folds and close, but that is not how to draw comics the Marvel way. And I think between this and a few other things you'll see, Byrne was really, really rushed, and that's probably why Denny O'Neil had to come in and script. And because this isn't usual, it's not what you expect of Byrne usually. And you got the one panel there in the back, and when you're under deadline, that sometimes you just have to do that. Like these arrows will serve the purpose of not having to do clouds and such. In fact, it might compete with them. So he tears the house down, or this rickety old house. Tells her to stay down. And this is Byrne's idea. He didn't take it from somebody's script. But these last two panels, Al, no need for. The background's just disappeared. And, it is a time saver if you're a good enough artist. That's another great shot from above. And I really believe he was getting ready to do Alpha Flight, which would come out in a few months. He had done, a year of FF. But Alpha Flight was going to be written, penciled, inked by him. And so he was warming up to that. And he was going to start, in a few months, scripting The Thing in his own series at last, taking over for Marvel 2-in-1. So this was kind of in between, and he also did a whole bunch of covers on books that weren't selling that well. Hopefully, get people like me to buy them. There we go. Now, this that's evidence right there. Byrne would never leave that much area open. He probably thought, okay, well maybe O'Neil will do a document dump and just explain a whole bunch of shit. And Denny was never really that way. He was always kind of sparse or gave purposeful. He didn't waste a lot of words, so that's just oof. Even if that was all blacked in, that would have been better. But or do some Austin Hatch work, So she puts on this gown, uses the old feminine wiles thing, and takes spot again. That's so odd. It's like that. That took no time to draw, but it is action happening, but it's just not dramatic at all. It's not how to draw comics the Marvel way per John Buscema. I like the first panel where Austin does the stubble. Oof, that's gorgeous. And so she got a gun and everything, but yeah. He's tapping out the Morse code and all that, but it gets shot. I am, as you Americans say, Dr. Jones, fed up. Me too. Take him to the deck. What's really cool about this panel, it looks like a Howard Chaykin panel. Terry Austin's inks sort of lean that way, but I don't think it was ever intended, just a happy accident, because Chaykin and Byrne have no common ground as far as styles, and that's not a diss on either of them. So they end up going for they're going to look for he wants them to walk the plank. He says after so much time, I'll find another interpreter, and suddenly a U-boat shows up, and because we live in such a current age where we can't even show an image of something that's not right, Well, did I put my post-it over that? Okay, better. And, also the word for the said people of Germany during World War II who were soldiers. Blast the boat. Even there, I have it covered up. But that, it's not like I'm being sympathetic. I'm just, YouTube, algorithm, internet, everything's very, very tricky. So they get rescued. He goes, why, hey, Deutschlanders, ahoy. Your country and mine aren't officially at war yet. So dunking a couple of U.S. citizens probably makes you guilty of 8 international crimes. But I won't be fussy about that. Get us and our property to America, and we'll call it square. Exactly 1 month later, here we go. It's like bang, bang, bang. All of a sudden, there's no backgrounds hardly. Just a couple things to give you a sense of perspective. So she's all excited about, bringing her findings, and she's like, and I deserve the glory, every bit of it. Be careful, you men. The newspapers will be there, and la 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 la. And he goes, and me, I'd like to tag along. And she goes, what for? So you hog some of the spotlight? No, I just feel an obligation to Charlie to take care of you. All right. And he says, I tell you, Edith, you amaze me. You might still get clean away with it. What are you blathering about? Charlie's murder. How dare you? Basically buster. Okay, 40-year-old spoilers. Okay, you have time to beep, beep, click out. But don't you dare, because it's going to be fun. He goes over I'm not even going to, I'll just zip through that so you can enjoy that. But her new lover, Jerry here, appreciates me. He loves me for myself. And he goes to shoot him. And again, where's the fuselage? I mean, it's just like in this previous page. I mean, they're supposed to be, it's a long story. You'll see more. Yeah, they're great. And the close-up panels are a good way to save time, too. And like I said, the fuselage, especially in that panel, it's like all of a sudden they're floating around in panels. And I love that bottom panel. That's great. I'm not saying these panels aren't structured well. They're just not very interesting panels. And I guarantee it's because Byrne probably had to do it over a weekend, because finally, the licensors said, okay, we approve your script now. And then Denny comes in to help out. He takes out, and we get this beautiful, beautiful splash money shot by Byrne and Austin, and with those audacious thick lines, those motion lines, and that's it. But this is a lot weaker than the first issue, but I've explained why. But if you're a Byrne fan, if you're an Indiana Jones fan, I think not IDW, I think Dark Horse reprinted these years later. Because even though it was done in a Marvel book, they didn't own any of the characters in that. So reprinting, even if they did it now, they'd have to own the license. But the book continued. It wasn't a miniseries. This is a future future issue with an actual real Howard Chaykin cover. Oh, I can't get enough of him. I wish I had this huge art book on Chaykin alone. But this time, by this time, David Michelinie, writer for Iron Man, Spider-Man, and a lot of other stuff, and Kerry Gamble, amazing artist. Power Man, Iron Fist, Marvel Team Up, and this, and then eventually Superman, which I think was the best work because Sam De La Rose he's a really good inker, but I just don't know if he brought the best out. Maybe it's the printing, but I don't feel it was until Gamble went to DC that they got him sympathetic inkers, or ones they thought would be more appropriate match. So anyway, that's all. I'm gone. I didn't plan on doing 20 minutes, but I just did. And like I said, hunt these down. I don't know if they're expensive or not. I just got reading copies as usual. And that's it. Have a good day, evening, night, whatever. Have it.